Hey everyone, welcome back to Reddit Relationship Stories. In this Ripe Stories video, my toxic parents threw me out at 18 and never looked back. No phone calls, no birthdays, absolutely nothing. Then, decades later, after I had built a life they never believed I could have, my ridiculous family reached out, wanting me back after discarding me like I was nothing. Let's jump right into it. The first one is a Reddit family drama story titled, Parents Kicked Me Out at 18 and Abused Me. Do they deserve a second chance? So, a little background. I'm a twin, and when I was born, my lungs hadn't fully developed, so I had to remain in the hospital for quite some time. Because of this, I dealt with a number of developmental and emotional challenges, dyslexia, and anger issues, among others. I'm not entirely sure this is the reason, but I believe that because of these problems, my family treated me poorly, as though I were somehow a burden to them. For instance, on our birthdays, I would ask for something and my brother would receive it instead. One year, I asked for a boom box, not a large one, but a smaller model, the kind that was popular in the 80s. My brother got it instead. Then Christmas rolled around and I asked for a remote control car. My brother got one, and I was told that due to finances, I'd have to wait until after New Year's. It never happened. So essentially, all I got for Christmas was clothes, while my twin received toys. For years, I tried to prove I was just as capable as my brother. He always excelled in school while I obviously struggled. In 6th grade, I put in serious effort and managed to pull all B's, which was genuinely good for me. And all they said was, "Oh, that's nice, but your brother got all A's." I think it was around that point that I understood my place. I was simply a roommate they were obligated to house, nothing beyond that. So as a kid, I figured that if I couldn't earn attention through positive behavior, I'd do whatever it took, and at least getting in trouble would force them to notice me. Not the smartest approach, I know, but what would you expect from an 11 or 12-year-old? When I turned 18, shortly after finishing high school, I was met at the front door with a bag of my clothes and told it was time to go, that they had done their job and I needed to leave. I asked, "What about my brother?" They said he was going to amount to something since he was heading to college, whereas I had struggled in school. So, clearly I was destined to be a bum. Honestly, I was already prepared to leave. I knew exactly how they felt about me, so it didn't even sting. I grabbed my bag. My mother attempted to hug me, but I brushed past her and walked out the door without a single glance back. It took time to get myself established. Nowhere to go, no place to sleep, not a cent to my name, but I had a few friends I could lean on, at least for a while. Fast forward a few years, and I met my wife while working at a gas station. We connected immediately, and a few years after that we got married. We built a home together, something I had never truly experienced growing up. Back in 2005, we had a baby girl, and 2 years later, a boy. From where I stand, my life isn't perfect, but I have a family, a home, and a solid job. That was the case, at least, until yesterday. I received a phone call from my mom telling me my dad had passed away and that she and the rest of the family hoped I would be able to make it to the funeral. I have no idea how she got my number, probably through my brother, but I was shocked to say the least. And hey, guys, drop a comment letting me know if your family had abandoned you like that. Would you have gone to the funeral? I am genuinely curious. Also, while you're at it, please don't forget to hit like on the video if you want to help me out with the algorithm. Thanks so much. Either way, I told her I was tied up with work, which was true since 12-hour shifts are no joke, and that I'd get back to her later. She started saying something along the lines of how they had missed me and would love to be part of my life again, but I hung up. A bit rude, I know, maybe even a-hole territory. But from my point of view, I hadn't heard a single word from these people in 32 years. So honestly, why would I give them any more of my time? I told my wife, and even though she's aware of my family history, she felt it might be the right thing to do, reasoning that my mom had taken the step of calling me when she easily could have said nothing, that they're still family, and that they probably feel guilty and want to reconnect. That said, my wife comes from a large, close-knit family that has always welcomed me with open arms. So her understanding of what family means is very different from mine. As far as I'm concerned, I already have my family. Those other people are former roommates to whom I owe nothing. My only obligations are to the people I love and who love me back, my wife and kids. I get it. My wife loves me and is thinking about whether I might regret not going. It just seems like now that dad is gone and life feels short, guilt is creeping in on their end, and they don't want to carry it to their graves. So do I go with my wife's suggestion and spend the whole time miserable around people I had to learn to let go of and stop caring about, just to appear like the bigger person? Or do I stay home, keep living my life, and put my own family first while ignoring those people entirely? I'm essentially asking those who have gone no contact with family whether they ever let them back in. And if so, was it worth it? Or did it blow up in their faces, something they'd never do again or recommend to anyone else? And by the way, guys, judging by the stories from our slash relationships we've covered so far, it's frequently a bad idea to let a strange family back into your life. It tends to backfire badly. Anyway, let's see what Opie adds. He went on to say, I live in Florida, and they probably all still live in California, so it would be a very long trip, and I'm not sure it would be worth it. As for my twin, we don't really talk. Not because we hate each other, we've just gone down different roads in life. We exchange the occasional Christmas card, but that's really about it. Barring some kind of miracle, my mom is probably still the same self-centered person she's always been. She always needed to be seen as the good guy by family and friends. Now let's get into some of Opie's comments that add more depth to the story. Commenter number 1 said, your mom isn't reaching out because she genuinely misses you or cares about you. She likely has extended family she's kept this from, and she doesn't want to have to answer for why you aren't there. That's probably something your wife doesn't grasp about narcissists. It's never about anyone else, only themselves. Whatever her reason for contacting you, it's for her benefit, not yours. Opie responded, damn, it's like you know her personally. It's reassuring to know I'm not the only one thinking this. Thanks for the comment. Opie then added that she's trying to take credit and appear like she did everything right because of how his life turned out. He said, knowing her the way I did back then, you're probably 1,000% right. People like her rarely change. Did I learn things the hard way because of them? Absolutely. But it wasn't through care or love. It was through cruelty. I'm not a better person because of them. I'm a better person in spite of them. I worked my ass off to build the family I deserved, and I'll never give credit to anyone but myself and my wife. Another commenter said, they neglected and emotionally abused you your entire childhood. Do what's right for you. Your wife simply cannot understand that. Opie replied, she doesn't, and I think it's genuinely difficult for people raised in loving homes to understand what the bad ones are like. But she's coming from a place of love, and I'm grateful to have such a caring partner. Another commenter said, generally, when someone who ignored you for 32 years suddenly contacts you, they want something. Your mother didn't want you. She pushed you out the door the moment she could, and now she's calling. She's probably figured out you're doing well and wants something from you, or wants access to your kids. Either way, I'd block the number. She's not worth it. Opie responded, not going to lie, I've had those exact thoughts, if nothing else, to save face in front of others. As for my kids, they've gotten this far without her, so they're not missing out on anything. My wife's parents and family, though, are wonderful with them and honestly spoil them a bit too much, but that might just be the dad in me talking. A downvoted commenter said, I wouldn't go unless there are parts of the story you're leaving out. I'm curious how your anger issues showed up during childhood and adolescence. Opie responded that it mostly came out in fights at school because other kids would call him names and try to provoke him, figuring he wouldn't fight back. He acknowledged he was no perfect kid, but emphasized he was still just a kid. He noted the story was already very long, and there were other things that made his childhood miserable that he hadn't even mentioned, like being told he was having a sleepover at his grandma's, only to find out later from his brother that the whole family had gone to see World or Disneyland as a reward for his brother's grades. They never showed up to his choir concerts either, so he eventually gave up on singing and quit, which he says is a shame because if shows like America's Got Talent had existed back then, he probably would have had a real shot. He was, by his own account, a pretty damn good singer when he was young. Commenter number 4 said, your father is gone, and your mom probably figures you might be willing to help her out financially. I'd send a sympathy card and stay cautious about why they suddenly want you back in their lives. Commenter number 5 said, that was my very first thought too. If you've built a good life and are financially comfortable, she wants a piece of that. Does her brother know much about your life now? Your job? Your marriage? Your kids? Could he have filled her in? What's her golden child brother up to these days? Is he married? Financially stable? Does he still talk to your mom? Opie replied, honestly, we don't really talk. We send the odd Christmas card, maybe a happy birthday message, but nothing beyond that. He's not a bad person, we just took different paths, and the difference in how we were treated growing up was stark. I know he knew what was happening wasn't right, but as a kid there's not much you can do. From what I know, he has a good job and is married with no kids, so maybe that's part of why my mom wants to patch things up with me. Another commenter said, you and I are roughly the same age, and I understand the mentality of the era we grew up in. There's a lot to unpack here. It's entirely possible your dad was the one driving the mistreatment and exclusion, and your mom may not have fully agreed, but went along with it anyway. Still guilty. The fact that she tried to hug you when you left tells me she wasn't entirely on board with that decision. And now she's reaching out after your dad's passing. That suggests to me it was him keeping contact away, not her. Still guilty, but there's a distinction. It sounds like she genuinely wants to reconnect. Personally, I consider making the trip, if nothing else, to introduce your family to aunts, uncles, and extended relatives who haven't seen you in years. Hear what your mom has to say. Whatever happens, it doesn't erase the guilt she carries for the abuse you experienced as a child. If she doesn't apologize, or the apology feels hollow, cut them all off for good, brother included. It might also be the kind of trip that proves once and for all to your wife that your family really are a bunch of pricks. Opie responded, oh my God, that last line had me absolutely cracking up. Actually, their household was more of a matriarchy. My dad was quiet and always let my mom call the shots. People today might call him a beta or a doormat, and maybe he was, but he never once stood up for me. A lot of the neglect came from her, and he just stood by and let it happen. I think her trying to hug me when I left was her way of making it about herself. And now, guys, let's get to the update. So first of all, I tried to reply to as many comments as I could as they came in. But after logging off to cook dinner and spend time with the family, I came back to find hundreds of responses. So my wife and I sat down together and went through them so she could get a better sense of where I was coming from. And even though some were a little blunt, she actually understood and apologized for overstepping. I reassured her that her heart had been in the right place and there was nothing to apologize for. At the suggestion of someone in the comments, I'm sorry, your name got lost in the flood of replies. I reached out to my brother, and that's exactly what I did. And now, another update. All right, folks, brace yourselves for what's about to unfold. I called my brother to talk, asked if he had a few minutes, and he did. I asked whether he had given my number to his mom, and he confirmed he had. He thought it would be better for me to hear about our dad's passing from her than from him. I asked him why on earth I'd want to hear from someone who kicked me out at 18 and hadn't contacted me in 32 years. He was taken aback. He told me that according to Mom, I'd been allowed to stay but would have had to pay rent, and that I was the one who refused and left on my own. As others had predicted, narcissistic people rewrite events to center themselves and preserve their image. I honestly can't say I'm surprised. This is exactly who she was back then and clearly still is now. It paints me as the problem and positions them as the ones who never did anything wrong. Despite all that, we had a good conversation. We'll never get that twin bond back, but we did agree to make more of an effort to stay in touch beyond the occasional Christmas card or birthday message. Like I said before, he's not a bad person. We just traveled very different roads. So I asked him why Mom wants to reconnect and why she wants me at the funeral. And you guys were right on the money. It turns out they spent their entire lives trying to keep up with the Joneses, and now that Dad is gone, she has nothing. No savings, just a small Social Security payment each month and a small portion of my dad's pension, living in a modest trailer. Word had gotten around that I had actually made something of myself, and she had apparently been telling people she couldn't wait to see me at the funeral, even telling my brother I confirmed I was coming. What the hell? She was also hoping I'd bring the kids, so she could meet her grandchildren, and was apparently counting on us reconciling. My guess is she was angling to start asking for money. And as many of you predicted she would, given that she's essentially broke now. I let my brother know, and after thinking it through, largely thanks to the perspective you all offered, that I wouldn't be going. She never told me I was coming, because I never said that to her. I feel a degree of sadness that my dad is gone, but I already grieved losing them years ago. I've made my peace with it, and their deaths, both his and eventually hers, won't feel any different to me than hearing about a stranger passing away. If I went, it wouldn't be for me. It would be for her, to make her look good in front of others. I have no interest in doing that. They wrote me off 32 years ago, and I am in a far better place without her toxicity, narcissism, and dishonesty. Credit where it's due, my brother wasn't a jerk about it. He understood where I was coming from. I told him that if anyone asks why I'm not there, he can either tell the truth or make something up. At this point in my life, my immediate family matters far more to me than people who have been absent for 32 years, so I genuinely don't care what he tells them. As for his mom, I'll be maintaining no contact and blocking the number she called from. My wife and I are both in agreement that this is what's best for me and for our family, not just emotionally, but financially as well. I didn't work as hard as I did to get where I am just to have it stripped away by her. As some of you suggested, I'm going to hold a small private farewell for my dad on my own terms and in my own time. Again, thank you, internet strangers. I never imagined so many random people could be this kind and thoughtful. Editor's note, marking this concluded, as Opie has chosen not to allow his former family back into his life. Opie has since deleted his account. And yeah, guys, that was an absolutely wild family drama story. But now let's move on to a crazy entitled parent story titled The Bride Wore Rat. So my wife and I received a wedding invitation from an old shipmate earlier this year. I had served with him in the Coast Guard, and we kept in touch over the decades. Let's call him Chief and his fiancée, Chiffet. I called Chief the following day, formally accepted for both of us, and sent the RSVP back just to be extra official about it. My wife and I then marked the date on the calendar, set aside a travel budget, and went back to our regular lives. 2 weeks later, Chief called with a request. He wanted my wife to wear her wedding gown to his wedding. Long story short, they had discovered that the Chief's mother was planning to show up to her daughter's wedding in her own wedding dress. Rather than turning it into a confrontation, they were asking all the guests, specifically the female ones. I have no idea what would have happened had I shown up in a wedding dress, to wear white or ideally an actual wedding gown. My wife was thrilled. She could still fit into her dress, and, as she put it, when am I ever going to get another chance to wear this thing? So the day arrived. I showed up in a sharp suit, and my wife wore her gown, and we walked into a room absolutely filled with women dressed in white. The plan was for everyone to enter the chapel once the minister was ready, but Chiffet wanted us all gathered in that room when her mother made her entrance. I stepped outside the main doors to wait with Chief, and we watched as his future mother-in-law emerged from her car in a dramatic explosion of white tulle. She was wearing something that would have been right at home on a Disney princess, but she marched toward us like a soldier storming a beach, clearly bracing for resistance, if not outright rejection. Chief simply greeted her warmly and held the door for her and his future father-in-law, who at least had the decency to look embarrassed. She strutted into the room with her nose in the air, and then stopped dead, staring at roughly 20 women, all dressed in white, most in gowns just as elaborate as hers. I don't know exactly what Chief anticipated, but he appeared genuinely caught off guard by her complete meltdown. The woman began screaming at everyone, telling them how shameful it was to wear white to her daughter's wedding and demanding they all leave. Her husband quietly pointed out that she herself was wearing a wedding dress to her daughter's wedding. That's different. I'm her mother, for God's sake. When she realized the bride had specifically asked her guests to wear white, she deflated like a balloon that had been popped. Moments later, the music began, the doors opened, and everyone filed into the chapel. We had barely taken our seats when the wedding march started, and Chiffet, wearing a breathtaking red and gold gown, came down the aisle on her father's arm. Her mother left almost immediately after the ceremony, and later at the reception, I learned that Chiffet had based her entire revenge plan on posts she had read on Reddit. So congratulations, everyone. You all played your part beautifully. Update. I called Chief, and Chiffet picked up. I let her know I had posted the story, and she pulled it up while we were still on the phone. The good news is she was absolutely delighted by the comments, but she's putting the brakes on sharing any photos. It turns out she's working on mending things with her mom and several family members who feel she went too far, and she doesn't want to stir the pot any more than is strictly necessary. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I have to say that is one of the best. Well, it's not really a Bridezilla story, more a mother-in-law-zilla story, wedding tales I have ever come across. Now, let's move on to the next one. This comes from our /am_asshole. I work for a local government office in a large complex with a lot of employees. When people's children are sick or when they can't find childcare, they take the day off using the generous leave allowance we're given each year. My entitled coworker, however, has decided that when she can't find a babysitter, it's perfectly acceptable to just bring her 5-year-old into the office for the entire day. The kid sets up camp under her mother's desk, lying on the floor, being constantly shushed and left to entertain herself with an iPad and a pile of toys. On top of that, this coworker never asks our supervisor in advance whether this is acceptable. She simply shows up with the child. And whenever the kid is there, a steady stream of people comes by our area to chat with her, cuddle her, coo at her, and generally make a fuss. It's genuinely disruptive when you're trying to concentrate on writing or designing graphics for a project. This morning I heard her come in, and she told her daughter to say hello to me. Coworker mentioned she didn't have a sitter today. I said, "You mean she's here for the whole day again?" She said yes. I asked if she had checked with our supervisor first. She said, "No, he'll find out when he gets in." I told her the office isn't a daycare, and she should use the leave she's been given to stay home with her child. She spent the rest of the day whispering to people about what an a-hole I was for saying that, and how I obviously hate kids. The truth is I love kids, just not in the office for an entire workday. So Ripe Stars, is Opie the a-hole here? Tell us in the comments. Someone on Reddit responded quickly, "Not the a-hole. People in my office do this too, especially in summer. The kids are usually quiet enough, but they always end up taking over one of our few conference rooms for the day. It's inconsiderate, unprofessional, and it shouldn't be tolerated in any workplace. Good on you for actually speaking up." Comment number 2. Everyone sucks here. She's being inconsiderate, but if this has been bothering you, you should have brought it up with your boss long before it reached this point. Edit. I keep getting replies from people who seem to think I'm saying she should have gone straight to management. Obviously, the first step should have been addressing it directly with her coworker in a calm, professional, and measured way. But that should have happened months ago after the first or second time it occurred. Don't let it fester. Avoid the conversation with your coworker, say nothing to your manager, and then suddenly explode out of built-up frustration. That helps no one. Speak to her directly. If that doesn't resolve it, take it to your supervisor. If that still doesn't work, escalate to HR. She is absolutely justified in not wanting a child in the office. That's precisely why everyone sucks. Being rightfully annoyed doesn't mean she wasn't an a-hole for calling out her coworker in front of the whole office in an abrupt and dramatic way. That accomplishes nothing. Losing your cool at work is understandable, but it's still not the right way to handle it. That's why she gets the a-hole label too. And the next one is a funny, entitled parent story titled "Entitled Mom Tried to Cut a 40-minute line at an amusement park and started filming when I said no." So I'm a 34-year-old male. I was at an amusement park last weekend and joined the queue for a popular ride. They had these timed wristbands and everything, but even with those, it was still roughly a 40-minute wait once you scanned in. People were packed in tightly, the sun was blazing, and everyone was just doing their best to be patient. About 20 minutes in, this mom appears with what looked like her entire crew, dad, 2 older kids, and a toddler, and starts weaving her way along the side of the line, doing the whole excuse me routine. The toddler is clutching an ice cream cone that's melting rapidly and dripping onto people's shoes as they inch forward. She pulls up right next to me and says, loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Can we just squeeze in front of you? Our little one is overheating. He's so hot. We just can't stand here like this." I told her pretty calmly, "Sorry, no, we've all been waiting." She immediately flipped her tone and said, "Wow, so you'd rather watch a small child suffer than let his family move ahead? That's disgusting." Then she actually pulled out her phone and started recording me, pointing it directly at my face like she was gearing up to get me canceled. The dad stood silently behind her with a kind of helpless shrug, as if he had nothing to do with any of it. Meanwhile, the toddler was happily licking his ice cream and smearing it along the railing. A few people behind me started grumbling, and one guy said, "Lady, go to the back." She snapped, "Mind your own business." She then tried to physically push past me, and I simply held my ground and said, "No, go to the back of the line." She kept on filming and saying, "This man is bullying a mother," until a staff member spotted the commotion. Security came over, asked what was going on, and she launched into the same speech all over again, holding up her phone like it was some kind of damning evidence. The staff member simply pointed to the end of the line and told them to go there or leave the attraction entirely. She huffed, called everyone heartless, and walked off, still recording. Was I wrong for not just letting them through to avoid the whole scene? And yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Was Opie the a-hole or not? And I'll see you again soon.